Here I've got an Agfa Karat 36. Film Advance is very reluctant to go back to the park position. Shutter fires. Focus absolutely frozen. Now I would expect that we're a victim here of the famous dreaded Agfa green grease, but that'll have to be determined by getting the thing apart. Once you've got it apart, of course, you can clean the crap out and it's no longer a problem. So it could be a fight. So I've got to work my way into this, and once I'm done with this, I've got its brother to deal with as well. Right, to start with this Agfa Karat, first I've got to remove the shutter assembly. And the tool I'm using is this Belgian tool, Belgian USA, which of course you can't get anymore, but I do remember that when Mr. Belgian was selling these on eBay many years ago, Agfa Karat I think was the one on the list of things it was good for. So hopefully that's engaged with the retaining ring. And the shutter assembly is loose. Now the shutter assembly is still fixed here. There's a screw that couples to the rangefinder at this point. Now pulling that forward, I've got this screw because it's stuck to my magnetic screwdriver, and I'll stick it on that arm on the back of the shutter so I don't lose it. So it's a shouldered screw, runs through that arm from the rangefinder. I don't want to lose that screw, it's got a very fine thread. So there's my shutter assembly, free from the body. And I'm going to pop that to one side, because I want to investigate this focus mechanism, which interestingly, the focus lever moves. Now that tells me that the problem with the grease is not so much in the outside part of the helical, it's between the inside part of the helical and the outside part. The inside part of course would be fixed to the shutter at this point to stop it from rotating. So as you turn the lever, it forces the lens and shutter assembly to rise up on the helical as it unscrews. So that's in this area here, that's where that is stuck. So there are two, I'm going to strip this right down, but I'm going to deal with this as though I wasn't. I'm going to put a little bit of solvent around here on that helical, that thread, that multi-start helical thread, and let it soak in for a bit. And see if that makes a difference, see if that softens the grease up enough. And here I'm just using some naphtha, cigarette lighter fluid, which is a very, quite a mild solvent as these solvents go. And I'm seeing if I can get any movement, yes, between the inner and outer. So that broke free, and that focus is now no longer frozen. So I need to mark the relative position of my inner and outer helical. What I'll do is I'll check them until they're both level with each other. I'll adjust them until I've got them level, and then I'll scribe a line or two across them that I can recognise, because I want to remove the inner helical completely so I can clean out those gummy threads. Alright, that's so far so good. In fact, that gave up without a fight at all really. I'll just wipe that solvent and loose grease away so I can see what I'm doing. You can see how thick that stuff is. Now that's not the dreaded green Agfa grease. Well, yeah, I can see some green colour to it, but it's got a lot of black in it, so there's some graphite in there too. So if I adjust my inner and outer so that they are level, which is right there, and I'll run a couple of scribe lines across here, with the point of the scalpel, and I'll run a single scribe line down at the bottom opposite them, and so I can tell exactly where it was that came from. Now I can turn the inner helical out completely, and I can see the outer helical there. Now the outer helical is also turning in this mount, and that's stiff, but it's by no means as stiff. So I'm going to keep disassembling this now, remove these 4 screws and remove this chrome cover. That one won't do it. Small chromed screws, easily damaged. Careful not to let your screwdriver slip, because you could also damage the front plate, and the front plate of course is satin chromed, probably brass under that satin chrome, and probably fairly easily damaged. Will that cover come off? Yes, it will. Oh, what's that? That's my depth of field scale that was tucked underneath it. Good. Now, I can see a bit deeper into this now. This front part of the focus mount fixes to the front standard by the looks of it. I'll remove these 4 screws. Pop that one back in place. I don't want to unlike the retinas, of course, I am not familiar with this camera. If I reduce it to a heap of parts on the bench, it's going to be one of life's major jigsaw puzzle tasks to put it back together. Oh, the outer helical I see couples to the rangefinder at that point. Will this lift straight out? No, it's pulling the bellows with it. I've got to unhitch the bellows from the back of that standard. Now there are 4 screws visible in the back, and almost certainly that's what I need to remove. That's just the retaining ring for the shutter there that came out. Now I'll just collapse that front if it'll go, because then I should be able to get at those screws more easily from the back, and I can. One more. That should be it. back to the front. Now can I lift this mount out? I can. Okay. So there's my focus mount removed from the body. And at the moment this is what I'm interested in looking at. So the 4 screws that went in the corners there, have I got them all still? I've got 3 of them, I've got 4 of them. Okay, so I haven't lost any screws. This lever here, that has a return spring on it. Obviously it's so gummy it can't possibly return, not under its own steam. That's the cocking action. That's where that cocks the shutter. That's very sticky. But this piece here, how's this held in? I see another retaining ring here. That must hold this ring in place. And then this ring underneath it, of course, is just trapped in between and can't go anywhere. Right, that retaining ring will doubtless be very awkward to get out because it may even have been lacquered. It's certainly not going to be bound up with old grease, it's just going to be bound up. Can I span it with my tweezers? I can, but that wouldn't get me anywhere. Oh look, a little bit of solvent and this just flops around. So yeah, there's certainly some sticky grease there that needs to be washed out. But I want to get that retaining ring off. I'm checking to see what could be damaged by me splashing solvents about. You can probably see green colour here. Now that is definitely green, nasty green grease. So things are well glued in there. I don't think I'll get in there with my lens spanner. It looks too deep. And I don't sort of have narrow chisel points that would fit in there. That is very, very reluctant. I'll have a closer look at that. I'm going to wash off what thread I can see. I want to be sure, of course, that I'm not looking at a left-hand thread and that I'm busy trying to tighten it up even more than it already is. Yes, it's coming apart. Can't say it's enthusiastic about it, but it's doing it. How did I get it apart? With a heat gun. I used a heat gun. I heated it up to about 200 centigrade and the lens spanner, and I was able to get the thing loose. But without the heat gun, no amount of solvent on there was going to loosen that stuff up. So now all I've got to do is finish unscrewing it. So these parts will have to be very carefully cleaned indeed to get rid of the last traces of that nasty stuff. There we go. So that's what we wanted. Here's our retaining ring. Here's the outer helical that it was holding in place, and you can see that nasty green colour. That's Agfa's grease. This brass section here, that's all covered in it, And this ring, which is the cocking ring, which cocks the shutter from the body, that is also exceptionally gooey with it. So those components now I've just got to clean. I'm going to use naphtha in the first instance. If naphtha won't shift it, I'm using this CRC Lectra Clean, which is trichloroethylene and tetrachloroethylene. So wish me luck. Well, that part went smoothly. The outer helical is nice and smooth now. I haven't even got any lubricant in here at the moment. This is just dry. And the inner and outer helical move smoothly together. No great resistance there, so that's all good. The coupling here for the cocking the shutter, that's nice and smooth, moves freely as well. And all the dreaded green grease has been removed from these components. So I'm quite happy with the state of that. I think that now I can move on to the next stage. I'm not sure whether I should lubricate these parts now or wait until I'm doing a grand reassembly. But the main thing is these components are free, the focus does move, the shutter will cock, and the grease is just history. I suppose I could clean up these parts while I'm here. To carry on with this Karat, the front is quite gooey with sticky grease. The struts don't pop into place particularly smoothly. The film advance appears to be very gummy. It certainly doesn't snap back into place. The shutter release similar. So I want to remove the top cover. So I think I'll probably be able to get in by unscrewing the rewind knob. There we go. There's one screw visible under the rewind knob at that point, one screw visible at this end of the top cover, and one screw visible here. So I'm going to remove the two screws from the end of the top cover first. It's that one. That aluminium piece appears to come off. That's just a little cover that comes off with the screw. I'll do the same at this end. This screw head looks to be quite deeply recessed. I'll see if the top cover lifts off now. No, it doesn't, but it's certainly loose at this end. So we'll remove this screw. Yes, that is just countersunk into the top. I thought it may have actually been sitting inside a recess. Oh, the top cover lifts off. Nothing exciting looking here. There's this little shield here that follows the rewind, the advance lever around. That's just to stop too much dust ingress. This here is the film speed reminder dial. Again, nothing difficult or likely to be awkward to put back together. Let's have a look at this film advance. It doesn't want to move at all now. Why not? Okay, we fire the shutter. Film advance, as you can see, that's pretty sticky. So this film advance mechanism I'm going to have apart and get that nasty grease out of there. First thing I want to do, I think, is remove the rangefinder system from the camera, which will help protect that from any damage that it might accidentally get if I'm splashing solvents about. And it'll actually give me more clear, I'll be able to see what's happening with the mechanism underneath. So let's look at this rangefinder. Well, I can see one screw here, one screw here, one screw here. They look like the only screws visible from the top, and I expect that they hold the rangefinder to the camera body. Let's see if I'm right. It's an odd, no, it screws longer than the other one. That's a short screw. So the long screw here on the corner, I'll put a little L next to that. See if that lifts off. It does. So the rangefinder's off in one piece, and it's got a date on the bottom of it. 7th of July 1954. So that dates the camera somewhat. This lever here obviously works that rangefinder, and it must couple to something. Where? Where does that couple? I can't really see offhand. Oh yes, of course, that arm. That arm that has popped back into the body there. That the shutter coupled to. The shutter had an arm connected to it there. That's right, it was a crescent shaped arm. And it's probably tucked up somewhere where you can't see it. It is too. Because it's sprung loaded, so it wants to disappear back into the body. Yeah, this crescent shaped arm here, that was coupled to the shutter. That moves this lever, and that lever in turn does something to the rangefinder. But what? Oh, it shifts this. Yeah, look, that's very gummy too. So the rangefinder needs to be stripped and cleaned. This spring-loaded mechanism here is extremely gooey. Dried out grease again. So yes, this looks nice and complicated. I think this could keep me entertained. Now, faced with something like this, a complex mechanism that I either have no previous experience with, or it was a long time ago, I will take lots of still photos before I disturb anything. Components that move in the body and are gooey like that, yeah, everything's going to have to come out and be cleaned. It's all very sticky. Most unfortunate. This looks like hard work. Alright, I've got my work to take care of here now. I'm going to take a series of still photos showing the details, so I've got something to work to. This will be fun. Well, while you weren't watching, I've taken a lot of pieces off this camera. I was too busy taking my still photos and watching what I was doing to run the movie. Never mind. I want to see if I can lift the struts mechanism out. It looks to be fixed by one screw here, and presumably something similar under the base. The film advance in this camera, I've just checked that, and it's very gummy, very sticky. There's no obvious reason why that should be the case. It could be down to the filthy gears, here and that filthy dried grease, but it's just as likely there's more down here causing me grief. So I will open up the base of the camera and have a wee look, I think, and see what I can see. So first thing I've got to do is strip that leather off the base. I've got no idea what the adhesive would be like. That leather doesn't feel like it's peeling off very smoothly. I'll find my other scalpel, which is a bit better for this job, particularly since I've just put a new blade on it. That is very, very well stuck. Yeah, it's certainly well stuck. There's some funny adhesive. It's bright red. Not something I'm familiar with. I think I said earlier that I hadn't had much to do with a Karat like this. I've actually, reminds me, I've got one in the cupboard somewhere that somebody sent me to service once upon a time, and it had problems with the bellows. The bellows were absolutely shot. And so that task got put aside indefinitely, waiting for a suitable replacement bellows. But that was some years ago. I don't remember what lens or shutter it had on it. Would have been a Compur shutter, I would think. Compur Rapid or Synchro-Compur. It'll be much like this one. I don't think this leather is going to lie as flat on the camera once it's glued back as it once did. The fibres are tearing away here. It's very well glued to that chrome trim. Well, that was clever. Managed to cut right through that. It'll disappear. Of course, you've got to be careful when you're pushing hard with sharp scalpels. I don't want to end up removing half a yard of my own skin. Tape is down to nothing at this point. That's off. It'll need a bit of sanding to get it cleaned up.